What up, Forkers? It's Matty Worldwide. This is bite 2 of how to cook a steak. In this bite, I'm going to take you into the kitchen. We're going to show you how to apply those tips I told you in bite 1. We're going to cook a steak on the stovetop. I'm going to do a little voiceover, walk you through it, tell you what I'm doing. And if you want to hear more about that, you want some tips, you want a little bit of this, you want a bit of that, you want a little meat in your mouth, hit me up after the jump. Let's go. Alright, just a quick introduction before we pop into the kitchen. I just wanted to bring it outside for this because it was just such a beautiful night, and why the heck not, right? Sometimes it gets a little raw around here, sometimes we get a little, get a little blue collar, sometimes we get a little regular. It don't always got to be fancy because that is the way of the ordinary forks. So what we're going to be doing is applying the tips I brought up to you in bite 1. And I'm going to show you how to cook a ribeye that I purchased. It's not the most marble steak because, honest to God, right now I don't have any butchers around me, although we're working on that. We're going to get a nice couple cuts from one of the local boys, and I'll feature them on my bite 3 like I do everything else. So, alright, now it's time to cook a little steak, so meet me in the kitchen, and we'll walk you through some stuff. It's hand wash time, it's hand wash time, hand washing. Forkers, don't be a jag-off. Wash off your produce before you use it. You want to make sure you get any dirt off that. I'm going to slice up some of this bread you'll see because we're going to use that and toast it off later, and I'm going to dice up these onions for my aromatics. Now, I'm going to put some parsley in with those onions. You'll see me dice that in a second. You don't always have to dice up onions and parsley for your aromatics. It's fancy and it's coming us off of how I like to cook my steak. You don't have to do it. The mushrooms are the same thing. You'll see me toss them in at the end because I figured why not have a little baby portobellos with my steak. Alright, let's finish up this dice on the parsley and get my aromatics all ready, and you're going to see me throwing something a little extra here. Ooh, little garlic sauce. Wrist twist it up like a stir fry, man. Just mix it up in there, and that's going to make for some nice little aromatics. Season with some salt, season with some pepper, the standard. Whip it up. Look at that. There you go. I got my bread for toasting. I got my butter for finishing. My baby portobellos I cut up, and then that mix of parsley, garlic, and onions. Oof, time to prep. Let's get this steak ready. Now, like I talked about in the tips, you'll see the steak's got a lot of moisture. Picked up some thickness. You'll see a light marbling on this steak. Now, like I said, I'm looking for a butcher. We're going to figure out how to get some better quality meat in the house. But first things first, get that steak ready. All right? Get some of this moisture off that bad boy. So pat that sucker down. Here's your tip. Less surface moisture equals good crust. Like I said in the tips from the bite 1, you want that pro level crust, you got to get the surface moisture off the steak. And that involves a mixture of patting down and salt. Now, I cut down on some of the steps for this video, but like I said in the earlier tips, I normally pat, salt, and I just, I do my best to kind of get that moisture out as best as possible. I like using coarse salt because that way I know exactly how much is on the surface and I can kind of measure out a little easier. When you're using the fine stuff, it can sometimes oversalt it. Now, maybe to some of you this looks like oversalting, but don't be afraid to season liberally. I like my steaks to have some salt and pepper on them, as I said in the tips, boom. I like some seasoning. Here we are. We're going to speed it on up because ain't nobody need to see a full-length video of me doing the same thing. Cover it up with plastic, let that sucker come up to room temperature. We can wash our hands because we just touched some raw meat. It's hand wash time, it's hand wash time. Alright, let's cook that bad boy, huh? Crank this sucker up to 7. Remember from episode 4, each oven's unique, so make sure you know what you're turning it up to when you turn it up. Add in the oil. Swish that oil around, make sure you got a good coating on your pan. And let's get to putting that meat in the pan, baby. Ooh, sear that fat on the sides first. I like to get them big fat caps, to make sure it renders some of that fat down. You want to cook some of that opaque fat. And then don't be afraid to let it sear that side. Be patient with your steak. Big thing people do, first and foremost, is just move it. Move it too soon, flip it too early. See, like I said before, I'm temping this bad boy. I got no shame in the game. And if you can't tell, I move the temperature around because on an electric stovetop, you can never be sure how even that temperature is getting to the meat in the pan. Flip it and look at that crust. God, that's good. I got a little stirring in my loins. It makes me happy, it makes me excited looking at that crust. Now, you're going to see me do some funky stuff. I'm going to throw the steak up on the side because I'm watching the temp. And I'm getting a little weary of where it's at in certain places on the steak. Starting to get up in that 120 range, with about a minute and a half, 2 minutes left. I throw in my finishing butter and my aromatics. I start to flip it around, coat that steak, distribute that flavor. We're almost done. Here we go. Toast off or fry off that fat on the cap and let that steak rest. Just like I said in the tips, that steak will rest for half the time I cooked it. And here's how we finish this, baby. Throwing in mushrooms, start toasting the bread and the fat and the butter. This meal is obviously not for those who need to watch their cholesterol or fat intake. I take care of myself so I can enjoy myself like this. Look at that. God, look at them delicious steaks and them mushrooms. Got them mushrooms cooking up in the toasting bread. You like my songs? Yeah, me too. That's what I do when I'm having a little fun. We kick back, we sing a little song, we toast some bread, and we eat some bomb steaks. All right, there you go. That's me cooking a steak. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. Hope the tips helped out. I had a good time cooking it. I always do. It's fun, it ended up delicious. I like to season it the way I season it. I like to finish it with butter. You ain't got to do all that. That's just the experience coming through, right? One of the things I wanted to touch on before we close out this video is why am I shooting outside, right? Well, it's Memorial Day week. We've got Memorial Day coming up. And there's something important for me I like to get off my chest. We talk a lot about the local areas, and we talk a lot about the local businesses and supporting the small businesses around you and the small artists and things like that. That's important to me. And as we come into this weekend and celebrate the people who served and died for our rights and our freedoms, it's good to remember that these are the things that we need to enjoy, right? There's tons of big box restaurants, and there's tons of corporate restaurants and corporate things out there. They're not personal. There's nothing really that special to them, if you ask me. It's the same repeatability wherever you go, coast to coast, and that ain't what at least we here at Ordinary Forks are all about, right? We like variability. We like a little bit of personal touch. It don't have to be perfect, right? So on that note, if you could please remember to like, and if you like it, share, and if you're sharing, by God, subscribe. Preach the word. We're keeping it local, we're keeping it small, we're keeping it blue collar, and I think sometimes people need that when there's all these fancy pants running around. So while we're out here enjoying it, my mom's a heck of a gardener. I'm going to remind you to go do the same this weekend. Take care of yourself, take care of your community, and take care of the people around you, because sometimes that's the only people that are going to do it. Often looked over, often forgotten, but doesn't mean we're any less quality. We're all good people out here. We're all Ordinary Forks, right? So for Bite 2, How to Cook a Steak, it's Matty Worldwide. This is Ordinary Forks. And remember, it don't have to look pretty, but it damn sure can taste good. See you in Bite 3. Deuces, Yinzers.